always in the same way. It's like, and that's sort of what I call comfortable slippers. That's like an anchor point. That. So that's the draw 2 or blow 3, which is the same note as the chord. So. And then what I realised also is when I go to the top end, so after you got the turnaround at the end of the previous 12 bars, I always start on, which is whole 9. So when you compare those two notes, I've got down the bottom end, so that's the G at the bottom end, and then you've got the G 2 octaves higher. So I thought, well, they are, we can consider those as anchor notes. So so the first part of the exercise that today, workshop today, is we're going to have a little look at those anchor notes. And the first exercise might seem a little bit sort of a bit tedious, but for me this is about getting your ear tuned to the fact that you've got, if they are the safe notes that you have when you start a solo. So I shall now share the screen. I should have done that before. Here we go. So hopefully everyone can see that. Okay, I'll leave that as A. So the first exercise is to try and play those notes without any notes in between to start with. So a blow 3, then a blow 6, blow 9, blow 6, just go up and down. And what you might find is that you're slightly missing the notes the first time, and I admit that I do that quite a lot. If I try to do that fast, then I'd start missing those notes, or just getting the whole 5 instead of whole 6. So yeah. But then they actually sound better if you cheat slightly by sliding into the notes. So if we do the same again, we've got that's what's known as a glissando, where you slide into those notes. So if I do that slowly, all I'm doing is blowing. Oh, sorry. But if you the faster you get a. So again, that's about accuracy, and I'd say that both those exercises are fairly useful, because you wouldn't necessarily want to start your solo, your high-end solo, like with a. You might just want to start off with a whole 9 on its own. So just bear in mind that there are a couple of little ways to find those anchor notes. But as I say, the point of that is just to get that sort of sound in your head, that you know that when you start if you start improvising a solo, that those are safe notes. Those are notes that will work. It won't sound like, oh God, right, I've hit totally the wrong note here. So just wonder whether or not if we play that over 12 bars. So if we change the notes every 8 beats, and then we can try and change it every 4 beats. So if I do the first one, you can join in as I go along. So it's easy to demonstrate it rather than try and explain it to you. So sorry, I'm doing that every 4 beats, aren't I? Sorry, let's do it every 8 beats. every 4 beats. So if you just carry on for that, and I'll see if there's any questions. Okay, is that okay? Pauline, I think you said, are we definitely using a C harmonica? And yes, we are, yeah. So that's sort of, I'm hoping now that in your head you've got that sort of that note, that, and how well that works. And so in a way you're already starting to go towards that top end of the harmonica, which is, you know, which is good progress. Now, as I mentioned at the beginning, I usually start with a, and when I start playing a solo, I'll usually, and it's that anchor note at the bottom, I'll usually play that as a draw 2, because you can get sort of more expression on it. You can get the, or, but whereas you can also blow, as we did, oh, sorry, you can't really get any that much expression with that. So I don't think we need to spend a great deal amount on this, but perhaps if you just go through yourselves a couple of times to try it, rather than using the blow 3, if you use the draw 2. So it's a, so I find that a little bit less accurate, but also the difficulty with that as well is the slide, because it's, in the first exercise everything was blowing, so you had your, so if you're drawing on the 2, at what point do you put that slide in? And I'd say there's no right or wrong answer. So if I just keep on drawing to the whole 6, or if I once I played the draw 2 and then go to blow 2, just slightly different sounds. And again, not right, not wrong, just whatever, you know, whatever sounds good to you. But you probably get to a point where that's quite fast anyway, so it won't, sorry, yeah, so you can just hear a little bit of difference in that. So if I just see if there's any questions there. No more questions for now, so I'll share the screen again. Actually, does anyone want to do that with the backing track at all? We can do if you like. If someone just puts into the comments. So right, okay, that's fine. No one's chomping at the bit with that. Okay, going a little bit faster than I'd hoped. Not hoped, but you know, I thought I was going to run out of time, so that's great. We've got plenty of time to sort of reinforce some of these things towards the end. So exercise 4, it's pretty much a little 3-note riff that you could use, which is a draw 8, draw 9, and then blow 9. So you got a, So you play the draw 9, slide onto the play the draw 8, slide on the draw 9, and blow. So it's a bit like at the beginning to was it rock set by what they called Dr. Feelgood, but about 5 octaves higher. So let's try that over a backing track. So I'll just stop that share for a sec. So is that any questions there? No, I'll stop keep asking if there's any questions. So I'll make this a little bit slower, and we'll play every 8 beats. Okay, so I'll start off. Play every 4 beats now. Give that a go. Okay, I just realised that I didn't explain the tab system I'm using. So right at the top there, yeah. If there's no minus sign, it's a blow on that hole. If there is a minus sign, it's a draw on that hole. As I say, there's no bends required. So if we look down here at there, what I've done is I've put the 7 draw. Oh, sorry. Next exercise. I'm jumping the gun there. I'm sorry. If we go to the second part of this exercise, it's like varying the rhythm and timing. So you could do a so what you're doing is just playing around with those 3 notes. Once you got that little pattern in your head, the two draws together and then the blow. If you just then start playing that in a different order, then you can find that you sort of getting towards a solo that doesn't sound as repetitive as we've as we've been doing so far. So if I get the if I get that track going, and then if anyone's got any questions, I'll have a look at those. I'm just thinking the tempo. A couple of rounds of that yourselves. I'll just see if there's any questions there. Any questions? No. So does that all seem to make sense? Is that everything there okay? I say I can only see about 6 people's faces. I'm sorry, but so you have to just use the chat. Oh, you really like that one because you can. Thanks, Pauline.
Really to make a big tune out of that. You know, it's like, yeah, it's really good. You can just muck about quite a lot on that.
Exactly, it's just those little 3 notes.
Yeah.
And I mean, the point there really is not to confuse it with you saying, well, actually, we could do 6 notes and let's do them in different orders. In a different order. They are the 3 notes, that's all you've got, and it sort of leads on a little bit from what I was talking about last week of just keeping things very simple to start with, like tiny little building blocks, and then you can sort of bring all those things together and say, once we finish today, hopefully that you can sort of start putting together a little solo, improvised, and you can just play along to backing tunes for 3 hours and annoy your neighbours and dogs and rabbits or whatever, wasps, whoever's in the area. So what was the first riff you started with the low end? Well, Paul, that was just me sort of noodling. That was just a that would be a draw 1, blow 2, draw 2. It's sort of almost the same as, but it's just there's a different note in between. So it's very similar notes used there, and what I've heard a lot of people doing is to repeat the riff on different octaves. Now, I won't go into this in any detail, but you could do like a, sorry. If anyone wants to know about that any more now, then put it in the comment boxes, because I think, well, we might have time at the end actually to run through that. So I'll go back to the old share screen malarkey. Hang on a sec. There we go. Now on to so we're talking exercise 5 now, and as I started to explain before, where you've got 2 things in, when you've got things in brackets, it's playing those notes at the same time. So there we've got a draw 7 and draw 8. So it's like the start to, I don't know, Louis Louis, something like that. So it's quite a useful little, quite a nice little, again, variation. It's sort of based around that riff that we've got there, but again, you can you can swap around the notes of sorry. So yeah, it's not as versatile, I don't think, as that previous riff, but it's something you could sort of throw in. And also, as there, if you don't get the notes quite right, if you get some of the notes either side, it's not the end of the world. It still sounds fine, and people will get the general essence of what you're trying to play there. So if we play along, I'll put the speed down again a little, and if we do that, 1, 2, 3, every 4 beats, I think we should be all right with that. So I'll get my machine going again. Oh. Helps if you turn your pig nose back on. Sorry. I'm doing that wrong, sorry. And again, you can vary the timing. So I'll let it run through again. Okay, I'll just see if there's any questions there. Very small writing. Okay, I'll make that bigger for you, Doug. I'll share that again. Hopefully that's bigger. There you go. That's something I was meant to put in here actually. That's sort of based around that, but is which I may as well put in now. Is the little flutter across holes 8 and hole 9 draw. And that's sort of the octave above holes 4 and 5. So what I'll do is I'll throw that into this Word doc when I upload it. But that's of course with the lower end you can start sort of putting little bends in sort of. But of course, at the top end, there's not really there's no bends that get a little bit there, but it starts sounding a bit grim, and that's if we were to do perhaps at the end we'll go through. Have the backing track going a few times and then just pick up on a couple of these exercises, and you can throw that in as well while that's going on, and then again I think one of the important things about is when you're learning is to listen to yourself, and sometimes you'll find a little riff you think, wow, God, that sounded really good, and then get that into your head, because a lot of the time is you're just learning riffs that you then bring out, and then you join them all together to get a solo. But sometimes when you're improvising, it literally is just making it up, vaguely knowing what notes are going to work. I'm probably a little bit lazy like that by not learning too many riffs, as you've probably discovered. Now, are there any questions there? No questions. Okay, let's go back to that. Gosh, we're flying along here, aren't we? Now, another little trick, and this is something I tend to use to link the sort of the bottom end, or naturally, it's going from the top end back down to the bottom end. Is a so it's just a little octave from the anchor note at hole 9, ending on hole 6. And what all that it sounds, oh crikey, that sounds a bit quite complicated, but all you're doing is starting on the note on hole 6, blowing, then immediately drawing, and then going all the way up drawing till you get to hole 9, and then blow again. So you got to so that's exercise 6A and B. And then if you build up speed with that, you know, again, you wouldn't do a whole solo doing that, but then that would be sort of part of, you know, you might play that for repeat over 4 bars, or as I say, going from the end of a solo at the top end to get yourself back down to sort of the sort of more comfortable place of playing blues. So should we have a go of that? How do people feel about that? Does that just any questions? No. Okay, so we'll get the backing track going again, and we can have a go at see how you get on with that. So here we go. So I think everyone's neighbours must be fed up with hearing this backing track. So. If you had to go doubling the speed there now. Okay, so that's again, you can play that flat, probably play that a little bit faster, but at least with there you can sort of see what's going on with those individual notes. Any questions at all on that one? Okay, no. Okay, well, if we go on to the last exercise, and I think what I'll do is take some questions then. And then I can get the backing track going again, and I'm just trying to see how many we can see of these on the screen at once. So then you can flick between the exercises. Yeah, so you got exercises 4 to 7. So I'll just finish off on this exercise 7, and I always think of this as the American freight train. I can't do this sort of bit on it, but it's like so I don't even know what I'm playing there. It's just about mouth, a mouth over about, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 holes at the top end. And again, I'm not going to do a whole solo of a whole loop of a freight train, because that is really going to. get on the get the neighbours back up, and probably my wife in the other room as well. But when you've got that sort of sound, what you can do is then flutter your tongue across the comb. No point me showing it to myself. So you can put your tongue flying across the comb. I'm sort of doing that quite fast, but slowly it'll be. So slowly it sounds a bit of a dog's dinner, but. And it just sort of gives a bit of a slightly different feel to the solo, because you've sort of got very sort of bluesy sound, and then you've got this little thing coming along that you might use for a couple of bars, and then you might go back into a more traditional blues sort of type solo. So that's pretty much what I was going to say about this. So if there are any questions, and it might be, if people want to turn the mic on and speak, that's fine. Is there anything there? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Oh, can I just ask?
Sure.
When you do the flutter across the holes, it seems easier to do it in blowing. You don't draw for that tongue flutter, do you?
Sorry, yes. It is drawing.
Is it? Oh, right. Harder.
I mean, you can do you can practice both if you want, but generally that sort of the freight train sound is blowing, because it's the way the notes are organised. It's sort of quite, it obviously needs to scare off buffalo and things like that. So it can't be that sweetly sounding. So I don't want it to look too rude, but it's sort of like basically it's
a draw. It's definitely a draw.
Yeah. If you think of on the front of Knight Rider's car, the little light going, that's your tongue going across, but a lot faster.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Is there anything else? Any other questions there?
Sounds Tony, can you hear me?
Oh, right. Who's
Tony? Yeah.
Yep.
I was just saying it's worth listening to Jimmy Reed playing top end of a blues harp in first edition. Jimmy Reed's a great old blues player, blues and guitar. But he invariably ever played top end harp, and he used to play G on first position at the top end.
Yeah.
And you learn an awful lot of top end harmonica just listening to that.
Okay, so if everyone heard, that's Jimmy Reed.
Jimmy Reed, yeah. He plays a G harp in G at the top end.
I mean, I was thinking at some point looking at blues in first position, because there's some.
Jimmy Reed.
Is it Sugar Blue? Does he do some as well?
Yeah, and who else did it? One of the players who played in Muddy Waters played in first and all. When he was playing in A, he used to play some of the riffs in the low end. He used to switch harps,
right?
Put his D down and pick up an A and play A first, would you?
Yeah, let's get those nice.
And then switch back to a D.
Yeah. I mean that's a really important thing that Tony's mentioned there, is that actually listen to other people playing.
And what Jim used to do, which is good when you're gigging yourself, is you could use a C harp in second position, just jam along in G as you normally do, and then you could put your C harp down, pick up a G, and play first position in G. Yeah. And it looks just showing off using two harps.
Well, that's right. It's why not?
It looks good.
Go through all the different positions, but yeah, I mean, I think listening to others, how they do, steal their riffs. That's always what I say. Steal the riffs and make them better. Because I'm sure everything we play, someone's played that set of 3 or 4 notes.
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy used to do stuff like up in the top end, and then he'd push back to a C in the bottom end, you know.
There's
Really effective.
there's a Jason Ritchie song that
I know you're talking.
what's it called? I think it's called Too Late, and it might be on an album called Dirty Memories, I think it is. And he plays an A harmonica in the key of A. And the first time I heard it, I thought, crikey, what's going on here? You know, it's an A. Why aren't you playing with a D harp? Because of course the D harp is higher, so he's getting all those low notes. And it's just absolutely tremendous. I've tried to nick a few riffs from it, but I've forgotten them all now. So, so we've got about 3 minutes left. Do you want me to put the backing track back on for a sec, and then people can have a play around with those different exercises? I'll do it quite slowly. Let's share screen again. And as I'll say, I'll put that there. I'll put the head roll in here somewhere. I'll probably put it. Yeah. I'll sort that out anyway. So when you come to it, it'll be there for you. Okay. So I'll just run through this a couple of times, a couple of loops, and then I think we can wrap it up there if that's okay. But say if there are any questions as we go along, just please type them. Here we go again. Oh, look at that. It's dead on 1:45. Timing's impeccable. So, we got, what's the backing track? Yeah, I always mention these backing tracks because I think they're great. If you go onto YouTube and type in Cliff Smith, in fact, if I just, to everybody publicly. Everyone in meeting. So it's Cliff Smith. So this is in YouTube. Yeah, I'll just YouTube. Cliff Smith backing track blues. It's a matter what order you put the words. Cliff Smith backing track blues G. If you want it in the key of G. So I'll just shared that, and you will get those backing tracks, which like I say, I find really useful. To do a fast one, and a slow one as well. But the fast one really is quite fast. I'd say if you try any of those, you'd be. Oh, we'd have got through it in about 10 minutes. But it is quite. It is fast. So, are there any? And we've got Jeff saying you can copy audio from YouTube into Audacity. Right. Okay. Because what I did, I used to be able to convert YouTube files into sound files, and then, which is what I've done with these, and then import those into iTunes, and then this the app I use, which I mentioned last week, I may as well show it again, called AnyTune. Hang on a sec. There we go. So where are we? Top right. Oh, it's gone.
Audacity, you can change the key.
Yeah, with that one you can change the key and change the speed and everything.
Yeah.
So AnyTune. I think Trevor mentioned something last week as well about backing tracks and packages that you can, apps you can throw those into. So there's no.
The amazing slow down is one that you can use. It's quite good, and a lot of people use that.
Yeah, I say there's loads of them around, aren't there? And certainly if you're learning a solo note for note, I think I mentioned last week I learnt the sax solo to Night Boat to Cairo, and I had the music for it, so I converted that into tap, and then I had it going at 30%, listening to every little note, and it, you can then start at 30% and think, right, okay, well, let's go up to 40%, and by the end you're playing it at full speed. And say if you listen to the solo, it is quite busy, quite fast. So and I do play it actually with me in a duo that I've got, and I'm playing bass at the same time. So it's always a challenge, but I like a good challenge.
Is that on diatonic? Yeah.
Yes, the song is in C minor, and then it switches to F minor. No, sorry, C major, but it's got a minory feel to it. Then it goes. Then the solo that I play is in F. Yeah, F, and then I'll be using a B flat harp. But I'll use a B flat harp over the C bit at the beginning as well. So I think I've confused myself there. So yeah, and that's another thing actually is when you are learning a solo is thinking about what harp. I mean, say this comes with knowing the sounds of when you're playing in different positions, whether it's first position, straight harp, or second position, or whichever position you want to play in. Is like for example, I play Mini the Moocher, and I play in what's called fifth position, and that's because it's got all the notes. So I've got a C harmonica, and I'd play that in E, which you think, gosh, that sounds a bit mad, but so, and that's because it's got some of the notes that you can't get in second position in, like that note is missing. So again, it's just playing around with different sounds and different harmonicas. There's no right one. So if you ask someone to play Amazing Grace, that's quite a good one to do. You can probably play that in it just straight. Or you can play that in G in second position, which I think gives more feeling, and then you can play it in F, which is 12th position. Sorry, I'm probably losing people here, but So again, it's experimenting with different sounds, different harmonicas, and yeah, that's it really. So any other things?